The Siftpop podcast is recorded in front of a live internet audience.
Live from a bunker in the heart of the Ozarks. We've removed all bamboo poles from the studio just in case. It's Siftpop.
Your voice is actually getting deeper now.
Well, thank you. Yeah,
Wow.
that's all those immunities that I didn't get when I was hanging out at the airport affecting my voice.
Yeah.
Welcome to Siftpop, streaming live on Mixlr every Friday afternoon or possibly Sunday, or available to download later in your podcast feed, unless, of course, you're a patron.
Patrons get perks.
Patrons get those perks. I'm Aaron Dicer from YourMovieFriend.com. I'm joined by Andrew Ormsby from Flick Freaks.
Ahoy.
Every week we'll be joined by a pop culture guru to chat about movies, television, whatever else in the pop culture universe is on our minds. And joining us as our guru today, it's Sincast month on Siftpop. We've got Barrett Scher from CinemaSins and the Sincast.
Hello!
You know, actually I should say from MusicVideoSins, because that's
Yes.
your baby, right, Barrett?
It is. I'm kind of got fingers involved in Sincast, CinemaSins, and MusicVideoSins. Yeah, it's been up and running for about 3 years now.
Very cool. So tell us a little bit about how, since you're a brand new guru on Siftpop, this is your first time, let's hear a little bit just kind of about how you got interested in movies, how you got hooked up with the CinemaSins guys, all that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah, I have a kind of a non-traditional career path. I've spent about 10 years in pharmaceutical research and academics, and ended up, because I've known Chris for ages, and Jeremy too, and been close friends with them. When they launched CinemaSins, I was the biggest fan and the biggest cheerleader, and kept in touch with those guys even though I lived in Chicago, and ended up started writing some things together for MusicVideoSins, and then ended up making it more formal, and love those guys. They're geniuses, they're hilarious, and they're fun to work with.
Very cool. So you were in Chicago then, doing the medicine stuff. So what's like a pharmaceutical, like what kind of did that entail?
So I studied psychiatric disorders, schizophrenia, bipolar, and depression, suicide, things like that, and we were developing treatments for it. So we would start with like cellular treatments and then go all the way up to clinical trials.
Wow. We should have had you on to talk about Split.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever get a chance to see it?
I am headed to see it this afternoon, I think.
Whoa. That's amazing.
Serendipitous.
Cool. Well, enjoy yourself. I won't give anything away.
Enjoy yourself.
That's right. That's a command. That is not a suggestion.
Treat yourself.
Very cool. Well, Barrett, it is an absolute blast to have you on the show. Like I said, it's kind of been Sincast month here. It's been a few since Jeremy's been on, but we had Chris on last week, and we're going to talk Kong. We're going to talk best ever challenge for monkey movies, any movie that features a simian of some sort, an ape, a chimpanzee, a monkey, whatever.
But not a gibbon.
But, well, you know what? If you've got some, if it's the gift that keeps on giving, you just go with it.
Come on, Aaron.
I cannot say that won't be the last monkey-related pun of the afternoon, but we'll see how it goes.
Knowing you, I would know you will not disappoint on that front.
No, I'm sure it'll be fine. Before we get to any of that, though, I do want to hand it over to Andrew for a little bit of Do We Care?
Every single week, I scour the internets to find out what's going on in the entertainment world, and I choose 3 topics that we all decide if we care about or not. Number 1, Disney is rebooting the Tron franchise, and they're looking at Jared Leto to possibly be the new leading man.
Do we care? Barrett, do you care?
No.
Me neither.
No. Stop it. Get some new ideas. It's Tron. You've already done the whole legacy thing with Jeff Bridges acting like the dude in a video game, but just move on.
Yeah, this one especially, it's like, it reminds me a lot of, although the Spider-Man thing was even closer together, where they rebooted Spider-Man, but it's been, they just did this with that. So it's like, and I actually enjoyed that Tron movie. I thought it was, fair enough.
Yeah.
My personal favorite scored soundtrack of any movie.
It's a beautiful soundtrack.
Daft Punk.
But I have to say, I'm not sure I really care too much about this. I mean, I'll watch it. because that's what I do.
Yep.
And I'll make my decision then, but I'm not that interested.
Actually, this is the first Do We Care that I picked something that I didn't even care about, but I figured we had to talk about it. Number 2, Travis Knight, CEO of Leica Pictures and the director of Kubo and the Two Strings, will direct a Transformers spin-off movie about Bumblebee.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So many things affecting my emotions right now.
Yeah. This is going to be the first Transformers movie not directed by Michael Bay. So
if he is responsible...
Oh.
Shucks.
Well, I'm all of a sudden in firm caring territory then. If we can actually get a Transformers movie that might actually be good, I would love it. So that'd be fun. Now, Bumblebee... See, here was the roller coaster you just put me on. All right? Director from Kubo and the Two Strings is doing another movie.
And CEO of Leica Pictures.
Elation. Just elation. I love Kubo. Can't wait to see what he does. It's Transformers. Oh, man. Why's it got to be Transformers? And then you were like, it's Bumblebee. And then I was like, I don't even think that's the right way to go with a spinoff for Transformers. So
should have done Soundwave.
Or Dinobots or something. I mean,
Dinobots.
GoBots.
I don't know, but I loved Kubo and the Two Strings, so he's obviously got talent, but I don't know how much of that he was solely responsible for as the director either. So
I have a feeling you care.
That's all that to say. I do actually care.
Barrett?
That was his first movie, wasn't it? Kubo?
First his directorial debut, but he's owned Leica Pictures, who's done like Coraline. He's done all the stop motion claymation. That's his company. It was just the directorial debut was Kubo.
That's weird that he directed his first for his own company.
Yeah.
That many pictures in. That's kind of an interesting story. I'd love to hear the background on that, but
yeah.
Do
we need another Transformers movie? Honestly, even if it's
we haven't
done correctly.
The last 9.
I mean, no, but I kind of want a good one. You know what I mean? Like, I love Transformers.
At this point, do you feel like you're owed
something? Yeah, I was promised Transformers movies, and I got something completely different. I said right from the beginning there's so many things wrong with those movies in style, in substance, in
racism.
In racism, in all those things. But really, they didn't even get the idea of what a Transformer is right, because those things are just like a robot and then like a blob of spiky metal and then a car. And like they don't even actually feel like they transform. They just kind of morph. Like it's just, that was one of the most frustrating things about those movies. I want somebody to actually do a Transformers movie where you can tell, oh, that's where the arm went and that's where the legs went. And I mean, you can do that stuff. I don't know. Anyways, that's my little rant.
All right. Number 3, I got to put on my radio voice for this one. Okay?
Oh, you have one.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to attempt a radio voice.
All right, do it, man.
Are you between 18 and 25?
So far, so good.
Can you sing and dance?
Absolutely.
Can you portray someone of Middle Eastern descent?
Sure thing.
If you answered yes to all 3, then listen up. Disney is doing open casting for 2 lead roles in the live-action version of Aladdin.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Open casting,
Open casting for both Aladdin and Jasmine, I guess.
Wow. Well, that could be interesting.
Yeah, that was new because this is what they did with Moana, and that's how they got Ali'i something whatever.
It was
Carvalho?
Yeah,
Carvalho. Something whatever, that classic Samoan surname.
Yeah, something whatever.
Something
exactly.
whatever.
She was amazing, by the way, at the Oscars. I don't know if we talked about that on the Oscar, when we talked about the Oscars.
She was not fazed when that flag hit her in the face.
No, she was killing it. Yeah, look, Disney's remaking stuff. Like, it's just,
yeah, they are.
I mean, it seems like every other news story coming out of the pop culture world is about a Disney remake. I mean, I think
we
talked
live
about
action remake.
Yeah, and I think we talked about the James Earl Jones casting as Mufasa recently, and just all this stuff, and it's just becoming noise at this point.
Isn't next week Beauty and the Beast for us?
Yes, we'll be chatting Beauty and the Beast
for
next
everybody,
week.
But yeah, but.
I know this has a soft spot in your heart, Barrett, these Disney live-action remakes over there at the Sincast. You guys, every time they come up, you speak so lovingly about them.
No pun intended, honestly, on this, but the genie's out of the bottle for this, right? They're just going to remake every single Disney property that they have with a live-action cast, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the
idea.
That's
depressing to me. Yeah, so, I mean, that's first of all, yes, they're going to rake in money, but Are we going to get any, qualitative entertainment out of it that we couldn't have gotten from, watching the original Beauty and the Beast, where this looks like it's essentially the exact same thing? So, not a fan. No.
We're even getting another live-action sort of remake of The Jungle Book next year, so...
Another Jungle Book. Well,
Andy Serkis's.
Right, but
it's
that's not
Disney.
That's not Disney, though, and that actually leads well into the question I wanted to ask both of you, which is, would you rather they revisit these properties with a fresh idea or do these retellings of the same stories? Like, is it altogether just go to a different, go to a whole new world, so to speak, and do something different? What do you think?
I would say a whole new world for sure. I mean, there's so much more that you can explore. I sound like I'm singing a song from Aladdin, but like the reason that those things, I wish I would just want to shake an executive by the shoulders and tell him the reason that the originals were so popular was that singularity, that surprise, that not shock value, but that initial just overwhelming pleasantry of a new story being told well. I'm thinking specifically about Aladdin or Beauty and the Beast. And yes, you can do that with brand new ideas. There's a million of them out there. You just have to look for them.
The only problem is that whenever you start shaking that executive, the billions of dollars that he has pocketed because of all these live-action remakes is going to shake loose out of his suit. And that's really all he cares about. So
that's a very valid point. They're making money hand over fist. I mean, they have no incentive to stop doing this.
Disney has more money than some countries, so keep that in mind.
And there will be, at some point, there will be a turn, and that's just kind of the way things go. But yeah, for the time being, this is kind of the route they're going. I mean, I guess if I felt like their original material was suffering, I would be more on board with just kind of stop doing this. But they're also making great original stuff, too, year after year. I mean, they are on a hot streak with their new IP as well. So it's not like they're not doing that. They're just also doing this.
How many movies a year does Disney put out?
Oh, my goodness. You mean just like Disney animation?
No,
or
Disney, like Marvel animated, like they got to put out like 7 or 8 movies a year, right?
Well, they've got Star Wars, Marvel, and Disney animation,
and I'll even let you count Pixar too.
And Pixar, yeah. Well, I mean that counts. That's Disney. Yeah. So I'm guessing at least one a week, right? Like, wouldn't you guess there's at least 50 Disney movies that come out every year? Am I wrong on that? Am I exaggerating?
No.
I mean, somebody certainly has done this math.
Because I think last year Disney had like the 7 of the top 10 highest grossing movies or something like that. It may even be higher than that.
I think it's got to be up there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for Do We Care?
All right, let's talk about Kong Skull Island.
These are photos of an island in the South Pacific.
The place where myth and science meet.
We use explosives to shake the earth, helping us to map the surface of the island.
You're dropping bombs. Scientific instruments.
Is that a monkey?
Kong Skull Island is our latest visit to the mysterious island where King Kong resides as a team of explorers venture deep into the treacherous primordial island where he is king, and he isn't the only mystery lurking there. We like to start off with a like it, love it, it was okay, dislike it, or hate it. And just briefly, what did you think? Andrew, we'll start with you.
Movie's super fun with things wrong with it. I'm going to land on a firm liked it.
Firm liked it. Barrett, what do you got?
I hate to be the hater, but I hated this movie.
Whoa! I love it. Oh, cool. This is going to be fun because I am ever so slightly in the loved it category.
What?
Yes.
What?
So I'm the middleman here. I said it was fun, but there's some things wrong with this movie. So you love this movie.
Well, okay, let's be careful. I said just a little, like it is just slightly past, liked it to loved it. Just
so
sneaks in there.
What'd you give this movie then?
I give it an A-. Yeah. Yeah. an absolute blast at Kong Skull Island. I had such a good time.
Ooh,
Now,
okay.
maybe I start here and just say, you know how you have movie experiences that will shade, how you feel about something.
Okay.
It is the first movie in a while that I made the trek to see in IMAX Laser. And it was mind-blowing. It was absolutely gorgeous. Now, I think that translates no matter what screen you saw it on. That was probably my favorite thing about the movie were the visuals.
Do you want to start there talking about how beautiful this movie is?
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
Not only did I love the effects in this movie, like I thought Kong looked great. I thought the monsters looked great.
I mean, the shots were beautiful.
And that's where I was going. But not only that design, but the framing on some of these shots were as cinematic as I've ever seen in a monster movie. Like, it was, some of that scale stuff was breathtaking. And, especially when Kong's, 20 times as big as he's ever been. He's basically the size of a skyscraper now.
Well, he has to be big. In case people don't know this King Kong in a few years is going to fight the Godzilla from 2014. So he has to be bigger than like the Peter Jackson one, or else he just gets stepped on. So
basically, this King Kong would be the skyscraper that the old King Kong climbed with the with Fay Ray in his hands.
Yeah.
So I thought the visuals were absolutely amazing. Did you at least like how it looked, Barrett?
I loved how Kong looked. The other bits. I see what you're saying, especially with the scale where they would come up to like the size of its toe, things like that. I hear a lot of allusions to Apocalypse Now in this movie, at least the way that it's shot on the island.
Yeah, for sure.
That gets lost on me. There are some things that are beautiful, and there are some things that are slow motion, just beast porn. Can I say that?
Yeah, sure.
Creature porn. No, that's worse.
I think you're messing up on the wrong word there.
Oh, it's the porn. That's right. Sorry. I understand why they did it, but the look of this movie is the last thing on my mind when I'm watching this.
You mentioned Apocalypse Now. Just so there's a witness here, I actually did write down Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, I mean, it takes place in the same era. It's the 70s. It's Vietnam era. These are Vietnam soldiers. So
well, that's not what I was talking about with the whole thing. I mean, the way that this director, Jordan Vogt Roberts, the way he worked with like colors like red and orange, that he really emphasized those. That's where I got my
even the
Apocalypse
soundtrack with the Credence and that kind of stuff. So
that's
they have
Sam Jackson.
I'm sorry. They play Run through the jungle while they're running through the jungle.
It's a little on the nose.
God, sorry.
Sam Jackson loves the smell of napalm in the morning.
Yeah,
it
exactly.
smells like victory.
Yeah,
but I mean, just the way I think that I got really strong Apocalypse Now vibes from this. Just like the coloring is especially where I got like the highlighting of like the reds and the orange, like really emphasize like the heat of the jungle and stuff like that. So
I got to tell you that really didn't linger in my brain much at all. Like just the Apocalypse Now stuff. I kind of observed it, but I was so caught up in the monster stuff in this movie. The human stuff in this movie is where it fails, and maybe we'll talk about that, later on. But it almost didn't even matter to me because I felt like the movie had such a good grasp on what kind of movie it was, and it gave me exactly what I would want from a monster movie with Kong. And so much of it, like it was just monster moment after monster moment after monster moment, and I ate it up. Like, and I think there's part of with a movie like this. If you're clicked into its frequency, you're going to have a blast. If you're not clicked into its frequency, it's going to be the stupidest thing you've ever seen. Like that's how I would, I would assume at least.
Yeah. Bear, did you like anything about the movie? You hated it, so were there any redeeming qualities?
Yeah, so the animation was great, especially on Kong. Tony Kebbell, I should pronounce his name right, was great in both roles as Kong and as one of the soldiers. And I mean, not to be pejorative, but the fact that it was right at 2 hours was a big plus for me. Considering, the last Kong was over 3 and just so overwrought. Even though there's great parts to it, it was nice to see some brevity, relative brevity to it.
Did you feel like the length was 2 hours? Did you feel like, just as a matter of editing and story-wise, do you feel like it was pretty tightly told? Like, or did you feel like there was some looseness in it?
Well, you mentioned the human characters being, probably the least compelling part of this movie. They could be cardboard cutouts for all they're given to do in this thing. And so I wasn't invested at all. Yes, to see Kong taking on the monsters and stuff like that is cool, but that's just personally not enough to hold my interest. I mean, from the human perspective of this, which takes a long time to set up, it's essentially like a dumber version of The Rock, which is a little kind of hard to do. I mean, it's all these slow motion, shots of, war and warriors going into this whole thing and aggravating this beast for no reason and dropping bombs on the side. That stuff just, it kind of checked me out before the movie really, got going. So yeah, that was the main thing that took me out of it.
I love that you said "dumber than the Rock" because "dumber than a rock" is actually a phrase. So that actually made me light up inside. That was really fun.
I had 2 more pros before I'll
lay 'em
get
out
into
there.
my cons. So I liked this version of King Kong. In most adaptations of Kong, we see him as like this misunderstood creature who really has a heart. In this one, he's a force of nature, and he will wreck you if you so much as look at him wrong. I mean, he's a protector of this island who suffers no fools, and I like that because every single other King Kong's like, oh, we just don't get him. He's really nice guy. Not this King Kong. He's brutal.
But he still had that tender part. I think this as much as the movie gets the human characters wrong, I think it gets King Kong right in that you still feel like there's something going on there, and he may be the most human character in the movie. Like, you feel like there's some depth there of he's doing something with purpose, right? The movie, even though he is violent, he knows his role and he understands, tenderness. And there's some moments I want to talk about specifically. We'll save that for the spoiler cast. Mm-hmm. But I really loved the Kong character in this, and I think if you get the Kong character right, I think you can get a lot else wrong and still have a good time. So.
My last pro is, out of every single incarnation of this place, this version of Skull Island is the most terrifying, and I loved it. I mean, every 2 feet, some hellspawn from your worst nightmares is waiting for you.
Yeah.
And they simply there's been a bunch of King Kong movies, and like the creatures on the island, they didn't just rehash creatures that we've seen in like the Peter Jackson one or the 1933 one. They came up with new things in this one for the humans to fight, and not only the humans, but also for Kong to fight. I thought that it took a little bit of, imagination, but they pulled it off on that front.
That was in my notes as well. I love the imagination of this movie, and that's when I say there's moment after moment after moment, that's part of it. We just got through talking about fresh ideas, come up with new ideas, and obviously King Kong is not a new idea. It has been done many times before, but within this movie, I felt like they had a lot of moments where it was like, oh, I've never seen anything like that before, and I love that, especially in this kind of context. So I had a blast going through that stuff. The other thing I want to talk about, maybe we'll use this to transition into negatives if we're ready.
Okay.
Is this giant cast of amazing people? Like, beyond this movie, this is an amazing cast, right? I mean, you've got Tom Hiddleston, Brie Larson, John Goodman, John C. Reilly. Who am I missing? Samuel L. Jackson. You mentioned Toby Kebbell.
Yeah.
Who I really like, by the way. I've really enjoyed his work. I think the first thing I ever saw him in was in a Black Mirror episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Wasn't he in the one where you can record your life, the history of you?
Yeah.
I think he is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I love that guy. He does good stuff. And then many others who, like, I don't see in front of me, but I mean, what a cast.
Yeah.
So do you feel like any of them lived up to their reputation, did some good work, despite how thin everybody's character was? We can all agree that's true, right? They're all thin characters, but did anybody give a good performance?
Here's my 2 cents on that, okay?
Okay.
While Tom Hiddleston, Brie Larson, and Sam Jackson may play superheroes in Marvel movies, their superhuman abilities shouldn't come with them into other movies. I wish that aspect of the film was more grounded in reality. I wanted them to be real people who couldn't pull off 80s Schwarzenegger or Stallone moves to get them out of trouble.
I don't know that I could disagree more. I just love that because it's a Fast and the Furious thing, right? Like where it's like that's the movie they want to be.
But
where...
that's not the universe that this takes place in.
Okay.
Look at 2014 Godzilla. Those were actually human beings with no special abilities. You can kind of make an argument for Aaron Taylor Johnson and some of the stuff he pulls off. But for the main part, those are just humans. Mm-hmm. These people are superhumans, and the stuff they pull off in some of these scenes to get out of trouble is like, no, you can't do that.
Maybe we can talk more specifically in spoilers, because I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to. I will say, overall, they all should have died like immediately. Like
exactly
the crashes they were in, those kind of things. It's like,
this has more survivable helicopter crashes than Suicide Squad.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. What did you think about the cast, Barrett?
I mean, what? Yes, you're right. This is a team of great actors. It's interesting, and I was talking to Chris about this. I think it's the first time that John Goodman and Samuel L. Jackson have had a scene together, which is amazing thinking about how many movie credits those two have between them, you know? But this is one thing that I tweeted almost immediately is that it's almost like Samuel L. Jackson threw out the script and just wrote his own dialogue. Considering all of the cliche Samuel L. Jackson stuff that he says, the hold on to your butts and we'll show
he took that
Kong
straight from
Man
Jurassic
is
Park.
king. Yeah, exactly. And the whole please thing that he says to Brie Larson later on. I mean, he is a parody of himself in this movie, and it's just I hate to be so negative about this movie because it is terrible, but it's just such a waste of potential.
Is there anybody? I'm going to throw out a name here of the one person in the cast I actually thought delivered a decent performance. And I would love some feedback. But if not him, then I'd love to hear who you thought gave the best performance on the human side of things. For me, it was John C. Reilly. I thought his performance was grounded in a heart that I didn't see in many of the other characters, and I thought he pulled it off really well.
He did, but that actually leads into another con. I do agree that out of everybody, his performance was the best, but I did find the humor in this movie very unnatural. For example, with John C. Reilly's character. While for the most part I did like him, I found that his dialogue at times was definitely out there. Like, they were trying to make this movie less serious by saying, John, why don't you just ad-lib this part right here, or you can just say whatever you think. That would make it more funny.
You know that happened, or you're guessing that happened?
I'm guessing.
Okay.
Just the way that there's a scene where he just starts saying stuff like that serves no purpose other than the fact that they're just trying to make this funny.
Mm-hmm.
And but like his actual like deliverance of those lines and stuff, not the actual dialogue itself, I thought he did a good job on.
What about you, Barrett?
Yeah, he's easily the best character in the movie for me, besides Kong. I liked those little vignettes. I mean, there's that part in the trailer that's showing about like him calling them the Skull Crushers and or Skull Walkers, is that what they're called?
Skull Crawlers.
Skull Crawlers.
Yeah.
Where and then suddenly Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson turn into like this mumbling, mess of, like in an improv class or something like that. But no, I thought it was funny. I liked the part where he's like, "Did we win the war?" And they're like, "Oh, which one?" And he's like, "What? The Russians were our friends," and stuff. But he was very good. I mean, I love anything that he does. I mean, he really, it would be very rare for him to turn in a bad performance.
Yeah. I think overall, his was the best. And I think also overall, which isn't a surprise considering our views of the movie, I thought the others probably were better than you guys thought they were. I enjoyed Samuel Jackson. I thought they set him up nicely to be just the guy who wants to be at war and always wants to be killing something. And, I liked his little crew. I thought I knew enough about them to know that, like I liked them and I wanted to spend time with them, even though if I didn't really understand who they were because it was so thin. So I had a good time with these characters. I just don't know that their purpose was well rounded enough for me to really invest in them emotionally. But then again, like I didn't need to. Like, and in fact, here's a thought. In fact, that may be to the movie's benefit that I'm not investing in them emotionally, because it's taking a tone of humor and kind of B-movie-ness, through this whole thing. And if I care deeply about these people, it totally changes that tone when some of them die, So these people in many ways are set up to be Kong fodder, So that's I think that's kind of part of the D. Yeah. So
those two words have never been uttered back to back before. So congratulations, Aaron.
If I had a main con or a king con, if you would, it would probably be that the movie is just stupid. It's just really dumb. There's not a lot of thinking going on in this movie, and thankfully I didn't need to think too much, so it didn't bother me too much.
I thought the movie jumped around way too much. Like, the movie just wanted to show me as many cool creatures that
yes,
it unfortunately...
and thank you, right? Like, that's what I wanted.
I mean, it showed, like, hey, look at this thing. Oh, look at that thing. What the heck is this thing? There were so many unnecessary moments of creatures.
Oh, I loved each and every one of them.
They were cool, but I just wish that some of them served a purpose.
Yeah. No, I hear you. It's so funny because I think if I watch this movie on a different day, I may be sitting in exactly Barrett's chair. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where it's just amazing how much psychology and attitude have to do with something, but I just had a blast.
Now, I do want people to know, I did list off a bunch of cons about this movie. Yes, the movie has problems. It's fun, though. There's a difference between a good movie and a fun movie. Mm-hmm. This is a fun movie, but it's not good.
Well, I would say, Barrett, you probably wouldn't even say it's fun. Did you have fun?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Aw, dang.
I mean, I mean, conceptually, I was in a theater and seeing a movie with, like, motion pictures with my friends and everything. But, the movie itself, when a movie is that aggressively stupid, like, it just offends me. And yes, I was able to distract with the big monster fights and everything like that. And those are cool. That's something that I could get in, like, a YouTube clip or something like that. But when you have, I could give this as an example, and stop me if this is going into spoiler territories. But there's a part in this movie where in a battle against these monsters, some toxic gas is released.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And the Tom Hiddleston character goes through this whole action sequence where he puts on a gas mask and he does this weird samurai thing to these flying birds who I don't think were really aggressors at all, but he goes through slicing these things up. And then immediately after, the poison gas is completely gone. He just takes off the gas mask. Nobody else is affected. It's that kind of movie where it's like,
Agreed.
Here's the setup for this action shot, and completely out of context. This is something that he's never done, nor will he do later on. Here's him doing some bad stuff or cool stuff, and look at the pretty pictures.
Yeah,
that's what.
So I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. In the gases, a beautiful purple color or whatever it was, and of course the birds have this, fluorescent blue, blood and that sprays, and yeah, you're absolutely right. A lot of this movie serves the visuals.
I think it was a scene straight out of 300, but that scene in particular is one of the scenes I'm talking about with, like, these superhuman abilities. Like, he's just running through, like, one fluid motion, taking out all these birds and stuff. I'm like, no, he's not.
Well, we were set up to believe he could do that, though. We were set up to believe, like, he was the guy.
I'm not, nor have I ever been in the military, but I do know for a fact SAS does not take you through samurai training. So
that was on his own personal time.
Oh, okay.
That's when he did that.
Okay.
The other thing that goes along with that, and this maybe I'll just make this my one last thing, and if you guys have one too, we can kind of move on. My one last thing is the other thing that bothered me on that realm was Brie Larson's character has, like, served no purpose to be there. How did she get on that ship?
She was pretty.
I mean, yeah. Well, and that's really sad to me, because you're right. It feels like her only purpose was to go around wearing a tank top. Like, it feels like that's why she was there. Mm-hmm. And that's a little frustrating to me, because she's such a great actress.
Yeah.
My
one last thing. Post-credit scene was amazing. I loved it.
Did you?
Oh,
I thought it was ridiculous.
Made me so happy. Barrett,
do you have one last thing?
Yeah, I mean, this is, an entry into this shared universe that actually seems pretty intriguing. I would think hopefully they'll put a little bit more thought into the next installments. I mean, I was kind of a fan of the Godzilla. I think that's generally the consensus. People don't hate it, but they don't love it. They're just like, oh, that's not bad. And hopefully they kind of get the best parts of both of these combined moving forward.
Yeah. That's a great thought, because Godzilla did succeed on the human level in a lot of ways, and this didn't, but didn't succeed to me in a lot of the big monster levels. It seemed like Godzilla hardly did anything in that movie.
I wrote a paper on why Godzilla is secretly an amazing film.
I really enjoyed it, but there wasn't a lot of the stuff I loved about Kong Skull Island. So that's a great point, Barrett, to finish on, is the idea that if they can figure out how to marry those two, that's going to be a beautiful, monstrous wedding. Yeah. So I would love to see that happen.
Yeah, I don't want to spend the rest of this entire podcast about me ranting on why Godzilla is actually a perfect movie, but I would recommend it. A turn your brain off movie. Go have fun.
Yeah, I think there's again. I obviously loved it. So if you can find the right mood to be in to see it, I think you can have a good time.
And Barrett is going to burn it in effigy. So.
Before we get on to our best ever challenge for this episode, huge thank you to the supporters who make this podcast and the network it's on possible. The podcast network that Siftpop is on is called Studio DNA, and it is supported through Patreon. Now, if you're a Patreon supporter, $3 a month comes and helps us offset the cost of the equipment, the live streaming, all that kind of stuff. And you also, at $3 a month and above, get your own dedicated podcast feed with bonus episodes. For instance, we have a pre-episode to every episode that's live in that feed. For instance, we talked about travel nightmare stories in our exclusive pre-show for this episode. If you are a Patreon supporter, that will automatically show up in your podcast feed as well as all the other podcast content from the Studio DNA Podcast Network. Thank you so much for your support. Honestly, it's humbling even to know that somebody's putting a couple bucks every month our way. That means the world to us, so thank you for doing that. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention in this section before we move on. There's a movement over the month of March that we want to talk about called Tripod, which all the podcasts are doing and talking about. Basically, it's a concerted effort on the part of podcasts for you to tell a friend about podcasting in general. Somebody who you know would love some of the podcasts you listen to. Could be this one, could be another one. But to not only tell them about podcasting and why you like it, but maybe show them how to download a podcast on their phone. Show them one that you like, that you enjoy, and really walk people through. Just kind of a concerted tell a friend effort that you'll hear on a lot of your favorite podcasts over the course of March. If you do, you can use hashtag Tripod, TRYPOD, and you'll see others there helping people out to find great podcasting content. So I wanted to let you know about that as well.
Tripod, that's clever.
Yeah, because it's also a thing.
Yeah. Did you come up with that one?
No.
You can't take credit on that one?
No, I believe that was NPR that came up with that. I think they're kind of, heading this, but I know ESPN's involved. Everybody who's doing podcasts is talking about it over the month of March.
Oh, cool. I like it.
All right, moving on to our best ever challenge. We're going to talk about the best monkey movies ever. Now, when we say monkeys, we're talking not only about monkeys, but any sort of simian. So apes, chimpanzees, orangutans. That's how I pronounce them, because that's what it looks like to me.
You pronounce it wrong-a-tong?
I pronounce it incorrectly,
See,
a-tong.
I can pun, too.
Yeah, you can. Pun with the best of them. Anyhow, these are any movies that feature a monkey. So it doesn't have to have monkey in the title, just any one that features a monkey. And how we'll do it is we'll count down our top 3 from number 3 to number 1. Now, if somebody mentions a movie that you have higher in your rankings than they do,
Trump,
then you yell Trump, and we will wait until you talk about it to do it. That way, whoever has it ranked highest gets to kind of start the discussion. And then we'll do some honorable mentions at the end as well. So makes sense, Barrett? You understand how that's working?
Yep, got it.
All right, cool.
Aaron, do you want to start?
Sure, I'll start us this week. Number 3 monkey movie on my list. It is Kong Skull Island. No, I'm just kidding. It is It is the 2005 King Kong, which I really enjoyed a little more than most people did.
Oh, okay.
Peter Jackson's King Kong. Had a great time with it for many of the reasons that I enjoyed this one as well. I think the creature fights in it are great. I think Andy Serkis is great in that movie. So yeah, I had a really good time with it, and I think it's a nice reimagining of the original King Kong, which that's a remake I can get behind, because when you look at a movie like that and how technology has changed, it makes sense to go, hey, let's tell this story with new technology. And, because the original, what year was the original? Was it
33.
33?
Yeah.
So, and by the way, the effects for 1933 in that movie are pretty great. But,
Yep.
but I really like the 2005 version, so it comes in at my number 3.
Awesome. Barrett, what's your number 3?
So mine doesn't prominently feature monkeys, but it does towards the beginning. And I'm a sucker for any sort of outbreak type of movie, and those usually somehow start with a monkey. And it's 28 Days Later.
Oh, I thought you were actually going to talk about Outbreak for a second.
Yeah, I did too.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's an interesting addition to it, too. But 28 Days Later, I think, gets everything right about a horror movie, a zombie movie, a virus movie, suspense. I loved every second of that. It's just cool seeing a gifted director like Danny Boyle be able to genre hop as much as he has. And yeah, so that's my pick. Not a monkey centric movie, but it is monkey adjacent.
We will allow it.
Yeah.
What do you got, Andrew?
So my number 3 isn't a good movie, but it's a movie that I've watched since I was a kid that just makes me smile every single time I watch it, and that is Every Which Way But Loose.
Nice.
I mean, you have Clint Eastwood bare knuckle fighting Nazi bikers with a orangutan named Clyde. I mean, that's American right there.
You meant orangutan.
Yes, orangutan. The movie, it's so silly, and seeing Clint Eastwood playing that kind of a character is just so fun. I can't help but smile every single time I watch it.
Have you watched it with your adult eyes? Like, have you watched it recently?
I have.
So does it stand up at all? Like, do you see, like, the flaws in it now that you didn't when you were a kid, or how's that whole process? Because it's different with different movies, right?
It's
like
very true. Yeah.
I've had different experiences.
It's like, that's what I meant whenever I said it's not a good movie. Whenever I was a kid, I thought the movie was great. Like,
Best movie ever.
He's got a monkey. It's funny. But seeing it again, I'm like, man, half of this doesn't make any sense at all. But just seeing how dumb it is, just I can't help but smile. Like, even halfway through, it just makes me happy.
There you go.
It's one of the highest grossing Clint Eastwood films.
Is it really?
Wow.
Yeah, it's this, and then he had a sequel, Every Which Way You Can, or
Every
something
Which
like
Way
that.
You Can, yeah. Which I didn't see that one because
Yeah.
I didn't want to taint my Every Which Way But Loose.
You don't want to taint that monkey movie.
It's just not the same ever since I saw the sequel, man.
I have a lesser known Clint Eastwood recommendation. Clint Eastwood, Kevin Costner in A Perfect World. If you never got a chance to see it, I really enjoy that movie. So
I'll have to check that one out.
recommend that one. All right, moving on to number 2. What do you know? I got it. Yeah.
You.
My number 2 is Jungle Book 1967, the original Jungle Book.
King Louis.
Nice.
I have, in much like you, this is a childhood nostalgia thing.
Yeah.
And I did watch it recently, and for the most part, I think it really holds up. The only thing that doesn't hold up to me in that movie is the overall plot and story is a little all over the place. Like, it looks like a movie that was made to tie fun songs together, not a movie that was made to necessarily tell a story. In fact, it ends with a weird, like, he goes off after, like, an island girl, like, and all of a sudden, like, wait, was this like a romance movie? Like, how did that wasn't even in the point of the movie, other than he's trying to find his own people. But I don't know. It was just
against his own will until he hits puberty in the last 3 minutes of the movie.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, but I still really enjoy it. I love the music in it. Unlike the new Jungle Book, which I really enjoyed, but didn't want the music in it. I thought the music distracted from the new Jungle Book. But,
Totally agree.
so that's my number 2. What about you, Barrett?
So I'm going from a non-monkey-centric movie to a very monkey-centric movie, and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Nice.
Very good.
This reimagining of this, after I railed against unoriginality, this reimagining of the Planet of the Apes story as an origin story rather than a kind of mind messing with your mind time loop type of thing in the original Planet of the Apes is very interesting to me. And this is 100% what Aaron was just saying, that the technology now versus the 1968 version, even though those effects hold up quite a bit, this is just really taking it up a notch. And this entry has the two greatest mocap actors out there right now, Tony Kebbell and Andy Serkis, facing off. And it's really, really well done. A little bit too long. The human portion of it is not necessarily essential, but a lot of this stuff is really, really good.
We're just all completely pretending like the Marky Mark Planet of the Apes movie never happened,
The
right?
Tim Burton one?
Yeah, we're all...
That's one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
We're just pretending like that just doesn't exist.
Super bad.
Yeah.
My number 2?
Yeah, go for it.
We talked about it earlier, the 1933 King Kong.
Nice. That's a great choice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I just have fond memories of whenever I was a kid. My grandma, she used to record on her VCR a lot of like old Turner Classic movies for me. And the first one she ever got me was 1933 King Kong. So I remember watching that with her. And like you said, looking back on it now with like a cinematic eye and picking up stuff, the graphics and like the effects that they did in that movie are groundbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
The way they did all that, I can't imagine.
That was
how long,
Harryhausen stuff, right? Like,
yeah, that old stop motion.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how long that movie took to make. It's fascinating. And you know what? It's actually a good movie. I mean, look how many sequels and spin-offs they've done off of this one character. I mean, he's one of the most infamous movie characters of all time, and it all started with this movie here.
Yeah.
So
I think it was beauty that killed the beast.
Yeah, that's and I think they ranked that as like top 20 most quotable lines.
Yeah.
So
good. Wow, nobody trumped anybody's numbers. That's great. We get to our number 1.
Go ahead.
We may have 9 different movies on our list.
Probably not.
My number 1 is 12 Monkeys.
I had a feeling.
Nice.
I love time travel is tricky, right? And I get really distracted by time contradictions. And it's one of the reasons I love the 12 Monkeys so much is I feel like it gets time travel in a way where there aren't contradictions. In other words, it understands time travel as something that cannot change anything, and I find the way that it presents that fascinating. I find Brad Pitt's performance in it mesmerizing.
Oscar nomination.
Yeah, I think he did get nominated for an Oscar for that. So yeah, I really enjoy 12 Monkeys. It's one of my all-time faves. So
Nice.
That's my number 1.
It's great. I love that movie a lot. Terry Gilliam doing a time travel story is just like
it's beautiful.
That's my sweet spot right there.
Yeah.
My number 1 is it's got a prominent amount of monkeys in it, chimpanzees to be exact. It's 1952's Monkey Business.
Nice.
This is Cary Grant, Ginger Rogers, Marilyn Monroe. It's a really charming, old, fun movie about a pharmaceutical company or a research and development company essentially finding the restorative powers of youth via chimpanzee. And as they go through it, each of the characters, if they drink this water, they become, their childish selves. And seeing Cary Grant at peak Cary Grant.
He's the best.
He is.
He's so good.
Oh, man. Everybody dresses really nicely in this movie. Everybody is just charming. Marilyn Monroe, this is probably one of my favorite performances from her. She's... Especially when everybody gets into their own different like childlike state. Like one of them, I think, is like a prankster, and one of them is just more of like happy-go-lucky. Excuse me. It's really interesting to see that dynamic with these really amazing classic actors. So it's definitely worth a look.
Very nice. All right, Andrew, finish us off. Do we get 9 new ones?
Congo. No, I'm joking. Barrett mentioned Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. My number 1 is Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
I wondered if that might be it for you.
Yeah. The origin story is something we'd never seen in this huge franchise. And
Yeah.
I thought that they nailed it. I mean, Caesar Andy Serkis is one of the greats of all time. Not only as like a stop motion, he is the best like motion capture artist of all time, but he's a brilliant actor, and he only has 2 lines in this movie. In both of those, I got chills whenever he talked. It was haunting and it was heartbreaking in moments because Draco Malfoy was just rude and it's so good, and you could definitely see how those animals became who they were in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. And is it War of the Planet of the Apes is the one coming up in a couple months?
Sounds right.
Okay, yeah. So this franchise is brilliant. This new reimagining of it is amazing. I don't think they could have done it better.
I think I just thought of this. I think Dawn of the Planet or Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes did for the original Planet of the Apes what Fear the Walking Dead should have done for The Walking Dead. You know, where Fear the Walking Dead failed because it immediately became exactly like The Walking Dead.
Should have been the origin of it.
It should have really lingered on the origin story stuff like these, Planet of the Apes movies do. So that's, that's one example of where they kind of got it right. I'm with you on that for sure. I definitely had them in my honorable mentions. So there we go. Any others you wanted to throw out there? I have a couple honorable mentions.
I will mention Congo. I'll go ahead and mention Congo. Whenever I was a kid, the movie was a lot of fun. Watching it now, it's terrible.
Yeah.
But if you're a kid and you want to watch a fun movie, go watch Congo.
The one I kind of have in that realm is Mighty Joe Young. Did you ever see Mighty Joe Young?
I saw both Mighty Joe Young.
So the
original
and the one with Charlize is the one I'm talking about.
Okay, yeah.
So I enjoyed that one. I also would give a shout out to the Disney nature movies that have monkeys in them, specifically Monkey Kingdom and Chimpanzee.
Chimpanzee, yeah.
Those are really good. And I love how Disney nature crafts stories into the natural world. You know that they're making so much of it up, but at the same time, it really kind of gives you an idea of, what that is like for those animals. So I really enjoyed Monkey Kingdom and Chimpanzee. Any more?
Yeah,
guys?
I would just say, Curious George, when they re-released that a few years ago, I think it was 2005-ish, 2006. That was a lot of fun. It was Will Ferrell as the man in the yellow hat, and had a terrific. It was just a really fun movie. It had a terrific soundtrack from Jack Johnson that's worth just purchasing just as an album. It's a really good album from him, but it was associated with this movie, so that's worth a shot.
Nobody mentioned Matthew Broderick in Project X.
Yeah.
So
I'm trying to think of maybe Disney's Tarzan.
Okay. I didn't think Tarzan was that great. It's one of the lesser Disney films in my mind.
Yeah, but it turns out there's not that many great monkey movies, so I'm kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel here. So.
The only other one I would mention, maybe we'll just finish with this.
Original Planet of the Apes?
I don't know. I mean, they are they're classics because of because of the concept. They're classics because of the concept and the twist, and as movies, I don't know that they're all that great. Heston's Heston, but other than that. But the other one I would mention is a movie I really do enjoy, but I don't think you'd ever put it in your greatest movies ever list.
George of the Jungle.
Is George of the Jungle. No.
I knew it. Oh.
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
No, it's not.
I was like, oh, no.
I also don't know that you would initially think of it as a monkey movie, but a monkey does play a decent role in it. Is
John Cleese.
Not Night at the Museum. Would be the only other one I would mention.
Oh, those movies are so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
I hate them so much.
Oh, man. Who hurt you?
Let's start with Ben Stiller.
I love Ben Stiller. I think Ben's great. Well, you always watch Little Mystery Men or something like that,
No, I'm talking about this movie in particular.
Oh, that one in particular.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's our monkey movie roundup.
Hey, no, I think is that the first time we've ever not trumped somebody, or?
Yeah, no, that's a first.
Wow.
9 different movies on all our top 3s.
Wow.
So
Cool.
Just got to go a little bit abstract.
Well done, gentlemen.
Yes. We deserve a round of applause. Nicely done. Before we finish out the podcast, we like to do every week a little bit of buried treasure, something in the pop culture universe, any place in the pop culture universe that you want to make sure and let people know about. Andrew, why don't you start this one?
I wouldn't be Andrew if I didn't talk about a video game. So the new video game that I'm playing right now is for the PlayStation 4. It is called Horizon Zero Dawn.
I've been curious to get your thoughts on this because I've heard such great things.
The game is fascinating. I absolutely love it. It's a post-apocalyptic game. So humanity
because one post just wasn't enough.
Yeah, it's like there's so many games like Fallout where it's like a barren wasteland and stuff like that. This is like nature is reforming, humanity has reset to primitive times, except all the machines and robots that humanity made so many years ago are still around. So you have robots walking around that are stylized after animals. There's like robots that look kind of like giraffes or dinosaurs even, and you gotta kill them to get their parts to help power your life and your civilization and stuff. There's surprisingly a good story there. The voice acting is great. It's super fun. Highly recommended.
Sounds like it follows the same story as Pikmin.
Sure, Aaron. Why not?
Hey, you gotta go kill the animals.
That sounds
and get
awesome.
Parts for your ship. That sounds. I don't know.
And it's also one of the most beautiful games I've ever played.
I have. This is not my buried treasure, but the people are already talking about Horizon Zero Dawn and Zelda Breath of the Wild as kind of the competitors already for Game of the Year kind of things. And I have been messing around with Breath of the Wild a little bit, and it is absolutely mind blowing.
But it tastes terrible.
That's true. We did that on the recent podcast. We tasted the cartridge.
Yeah.
Not a good thing. What about you, Barrett? What's your buried treasure?
So this is a movie I just rewatched recently. It's from 1998, and it's Great Expectations. I don't hear a lot of people talk about this movie. Now, it wasn't hugely well received. Has great acting in it, great performances from Ethan Hawke and Gwyneth Paltrow in particular. Some of the best work I think they've done. And the director, Alfonso Cuarón, went on to do Gravity, went on to do all these amazing films. And I don't think he really gets the credit for doing like a really pretty, beautiful movie. With of course, it's a takeoff of the Dickens classic, but it's almost unrecognizable from that. It could function as its own story. Compelling characters, really interesting, great soundtrack, one of my favorite of the 90s, and definitely worth checking out.
Creepy De Niro. Creepy De Niro.
Can be Creepy De Niro.
Yeah.
I, for my buried treasure, am going with a BBC show that got a lot of buzz during its first season, but it's just entering its third season, and I don't know if people are aware of it as much, but it's called Broadchurch. And it's David Tennant.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that.
David Tennant, who you may know from Doctor Who, and then several other things as well, including Jessica Jones, where he is phenomenal.
Yeah,
he's really good in this as well. It's one of the only things I've seen him in where he actually has his natural accent, which is Scottish, I believe, either Scottish or Irish. I think it's Scottish.
Yeah.
But he plays a police detective with another woman police detective, and the first season was this incredible whodunit story.
It's so good.
Very, very good. So you've seen the first season of Broadchurch.
I've seen first season and half of the second season.
Okay, so did you get bored during the second season?
It wasn't as good, I didn't think.
Because it was more a court case. The second season was like a court case and still had some twists and turns to it, but I didn't enjoy the second season as much. About 3 episodes into the third season, and it feels much more like the first season.
Really?
So it's another case. So they're solving this case, and there's just something about taking because we all know the crime procedurals, case a week kind of thing, like, every week in 45 minutes they solve their case.
This is case a season.
This is case per season, and I like the feel of that so much better because you live in it, and they can reveal things in different ways, and I just think the structure of it really helps the how engaging it is. So plus I love David Tennant, so I just let people know that the third season seems like doing pretty good.
I think what made that first season so magical was the fact that it took place in such a small town that everything seemed a lot more personal because everybody knew everybody, and you were like, oh, it's them. Oh, it's them. Yeah, I know it can't be them. So
it's a great whodunit.
Exactly.
I'm hoping this third season is just as great a whodunit. It takes place in the same community.
Okay.
So, it is that small community kind of thing, and you're getting to know a few other people in that community, but there are some of the people that you know from the first 2 seasons as well.
Fantastic.
Yep, that's mine. So, did you ever see any Broadchurch, Barrett?
No, but that's one of the ones that's on my list, particularly because of David Tennant. Like, I really dig his stuff. You mentioned Jessica Jones. He is awesome in that.
Yeah,
so terrifying.
He's also great in what was the horror remake he didn't was in?
He was in not Friday Night.
Fright Night?
Fright Night.
Fright Night.
Yeah.
Yes. He makes that movie too. And it's not like a
Makes it tolerable.
It's not like an Oscar-winning movie, but yeah, I enjoyed it because Tenet was in it. I always love what he does. We did it, guys!
Woo! Huzzah!
We did a podcast.
All right.
Podcasting has happened. Thank you so much for joining us for Siftpop today. Very much appreciate you being here. It is part of the Studio DNA Podcast Network. You can find out more about other live and later shows on the network by following the feed at mixlr.com/StudioDNA. That's mixlr.com/StudioDNA. Huge thanks again to today's guru. It's Barrett Share from the Sincast and MusicVideoSins.
Thank you, guys.
Feel free to plug away, my friend. Where do you want to send people?
Yeah, to check out our videos, go to youtube.com/cinemasins or youtube.com/musicvideosins. And for our podcast, the Sincast, you can search your whatever your podcasting platform is, SoundCloud, iTunes, Pocket Potter, Potterific, any sort of pod pun that I'm sure has been co-opted into a site. We're on there. Spotify too. So yeah, just search for Sincast. We post our episodes every Monday, and we have mini pods for some reviews as we see fit. Basically, whenever we all see a movie together, we say, all right, well, let's do a mini pod.
You've been on a streak with those recently. You had one up for Get Out and for Logan, so you guys have been getting a few more of those up.
Well, it was cool to have two really good movies in a row, too. We said, all right, well, this is worth doing.
Well, you mean 3 now that Kong Skull Island's out. 3 great movies in a row. And
come on. Come on now.
Much love and gratitude as well to our Patreon supporters for giving monthly to make this show and others on the network possible. Support starts at $3 a month, comes with some pretty fun perks. You can find out more at patreon.com/StudioDNA. There are a lot of ways to connect with the podcast. If you want to leave a comment, you can do it at SoundCloud. You can tweet at us. I'm at Aaron Dicer. Andrew is at FlickFreaks.
C. Cornballer.
You can also email us at feedback@siftpop.com. And finally, if you're having a good time and you know that your movie-loving friends would enjoy it as well, make sure you let them know. Share the love. They don't even have to fly through a 50-mile lightning hurricane to listen, so they can find it anywhere, anytime, and we would love to have them aboard. We'll be getting into spoiler chats for our next episode, so if you did see the movie, you want to stay tuned for that, we would love to see you there. Thanks again, Barrett. Thanks again, Andrew, and we'll see you next time.